Well, the press is buzzing about the statements of the president. If you like your health care coverage, you can keep it. Well, that's been changed. If I like your health care coverage, you can keep it. If I don't, I'm going to get you one more expensive. Because we think in the government, you shouldn't be driving those crummy Chevrolets. You should be driving Cadillacs, because we want everybody to be in a Cadillac regardless of whether they can afford it or not. You have a Cadillac?
I don't have a Cadillac.
Well, Mr. Obama likes Cadillacs, and he wants everybody to have a Cadillac health plan. And if they can't do it, he's going to make sure that the insurance companies cancel the Chevrolets so you can't have one.
It is heartbreaking to hear these stories of people that can't afford their health insurance now.
It's just begun, Wendy. It's only begun. As I said, wait till March when the women of America find out what is being done to them, and the outrage is going to be so loud it'll blow the lid off the Capitol. Yep. Well, today, Congress has got a shot at Kathleen Sebelius. She's the Secretary of HHS, and she's going to blame all the problems with the health care were on those terrible people who did the software.
Well, some Republicans are calling for Sebelius to resign as they want to know who's responsible for the failures of Obamacare. Ephraim Graham has the story.
The Obama administration continues to try and distance itself from the failures of the Obamacare website. Today, Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius faces Congress. She's set to blame the site's problems on the contractors who built it. But documents show that argument may not hold up. The main contractor appears to have warned the government about issues with the site before it went live. Sebelius isn't the only member of the Obama administration casting blame elsewhere. Tuesday, lawmakers confronted Medicare Chief Marilyn Tavenner about the wave of cancellation notices hitting millions of Americans who buy their own insurance.
I've heard from hundreds of my constituents who are seeing their premiums rise. They're seeing their policies being canceled.
Tavenner said it's not the administration, but the insurers who are responsible for cancellations. And she said in most cases, people can find better replacement plans. But for many Americans, that's not the case.
I'm not going to be able to afford anything if I ever get sick.
Critics say one key reason for the cost of insurance going up for so many people is Obamacare forces them to buy more expensive policies that provide more coverage than they either want or really need. Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich told CBN News many people will have to find out the hard way the president's promises about Obamacare were simply not true.
We're discovering that when you get some of these plans, they don't have your doctor in it. They don't have your hospital in it. So the president's promise that you can keep your doctor is going to once again prove not to be true.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
You know, if I get health care from one of these plans, I've got to get maternity coverage, and I really don't want it. I don't think I need it.
I don't think you need it.
I'm so glad.
Maybe you need coverage for being like a great grandparent.
Well, they don't have it for that. But in any event, oh, it's crazy. But it isn't just Big Brother operating this way. Big Brother doesn't like some green. They want green in some things, and they don't like green in others. And they want to kill, they want to protect the eagles, but they want to kill off the eagles with giant farms of wind turbines. Well, there's another group of Americans who is protesting the policies of this administration. John Jessup has that story from Washington.
Pat, thousands of coal workers and officials rallied on Capitol Hill against what some critics call the White House's war on coal. They're warning if the Obama administration and EPA have their way, Americans will be paying much higher energy prices. And as Paul Strand reports, they say thousands of jobs across coal country will be killed.
The Rally for American Jobs was meant to highlight what those targeted call a war on coal. Many in the crowd on Capitol Hill were the workers and families who will lose their jobs and paychecks if the Obama administration and EPA are left alone to regulate coal to death.
they destroy coal, this country's destroyed. 40% of our electricity alone is generated by coal.
Roger Horton of Citizens for Coal says the EPA has now hit coal plants with regulations so tough no industry could measure up.
There's no technology in the world that can meet these standards.
They've tightened down regulation after regulation down through the years and ended up with putting us out of business, pretty much.
These coal miners, workers, and officials rallied on Capitol Hill because only Congress or the courts can stop the EPA.
What we're trying to do are to reach the hearts and minds of the people who are in those halls in front of me here, to get them to understand that coal mining is much more than an energy source. It's people.
I was laid off from a coal mine, and then trying to find a job somewhere is almost non-existent. If you do find a job, it's low paying.
And it ripples out across a community.
There's 10 to 12 jobs for every coal miner out there.
Then there's the effect on personal lives when jobs get killed.
I have seen divorces. I have seen drug abuse. I have seen people have to lose their homes.
I got divorced. You know, things didn't go right, you know, and it just caused a lot of family problems.
Lost their vehicles. They've had to leave, retool, reschool, go somewhere else, leave their homes where they've been all their life, and it's just not fair.
These pro-coal protesters blame not just the EPA, but a president whose environmental standards go way past what they believe is reasonable.
There was a lot of pollution, and we've cleaned up a lot of things, the creeks, the water and the air. So it's just what extreme you want to take that, and we can't afford the extremes that he's taken us to.
We don't want a handout. All we want to do is work. And they're not listening. They keep throwing everything in the world in our path.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Capitol Hill.
And Congress held a hearing on the impact of the EPA's actions Tuesday. One Kentucky judge said they've wiped out the jobs of 700,000 workers in eastern Kentucky over the last 2 years. That's a drain of $1 billion of earned wages from the region's economy. And Pat, the Obama administration has announced it will oppose public financing for new coal plants in other countries if they don't meet U.S. standards.
Well, I have with me a lady from West Virginia who worked for the governor of West Virginia. How's this playing over there in coal country?
I don't understand why they want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Coal is so useful, and it's such a part of our country. And for West Virginians, I mean, this is the most important thing on the table for them right now.
You know, I've been over there with doing food distribution to some of those folks in those Hoot and Holly areas, and they're just good people, and they, you know, I love them. And to think that this administration is going to deliberately put those people out of work, I mean, how cruel can you get? They talk about, I want to help the middle class. I mean, baloney. This is what these socialists do. They don't care. And some egghead sits in an office up in Washington, and he makes rules that affect millions of working Americans, breaks up families. They do now have technology to clean up the emissions from coal. And that's what we ought to be focusing on. If coal is dirty, all right, clean up the air, put scrubbers in, do all that kind of thing. But what they're doing is outrageous, and these activists in charge of the EPA, they are fanatics. They are fanatics. I encountered them in California. Believe me, they are fanatics. And they are in charge. They don't care about the impact of these jobs. They don't care about what happens to families. All they care about is their philosophy. And if the stuff hurts people too bad, they're going to clean up the environment, or they're going to protect the wilderness, or they're going to give everybody the right kind of health care, regardless of whether people want it or not. That's socialism. It's communism. And it's time the people stood up and said, no more, no más. John.
Pat, the head of the nation's intelligence community, told Congress spying on foreign allies is necessary and nothing new. And he said they'd do it to the U.S. as well. National Intelligence Director James Clapper said collecting European phone records was done with the help of governments over there. And he said the outrage in Europe is overblown.
We do not spy on anyone except for valid foreign intelligence purposes, and we only work within the law.
Meanwhile, Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein is breaking rank and saying she will launch a congressional review of all the U.S. spy programs. Feinstein chairs the Senate Intelligence Committee, typically known for supporting President Obama and the NSA. Israel announced new construction in East Jerusalem today in an area Palestinians demand as part of their future state. Palestinians want to divide Jerusalem, something Israel adamantly opposes. The Israeli announcement came just hours after it freed 26 Palestinian prisoners despite protests from families victimized by terror attacks. The release is a move designed to appease the Palestinian government and bring its leaders back to the negotiating table to talk peace. All those released were connected to the murders of Israeli citizens, including an Israeli reservist and a Holocaust survivor. The prisoners were welcomed as heroes in Palestinian territories. Many Israelis fear they will commit terror attacks again. Well, experts say parents are clueless about the harmful effects too much technology has on their kids. So the American Academy of Pediatrics just tightened its guidelines for how much screen time is okay. Health reporter Lori Johnson shows us what they are.
Whether it's TV, video games, smartphones, or tablets, many kids spend more time looking at a screen than they do anything else, including school and sleep. For children between 8 and 18, that adds up to an average of 7 hours a day. Even babies are plugged in, with 40% under age 2 having used a smartphone or tablet. So Americans' pediatricians want parents to crack down. Their new rules include no screen time at all for kids under 2. For older children, 2 hours a day tops. No technology in a child's bedroom, and when kids watch TV, it should be with parents who can then discuss the content.
Use the media constructively. If you co-view with your kids, that will download your messages rather than what they're getting from the screen.
Research shows too much screen time can lead to sexual promiscuity, bullying, obesity, poor performance at school, and sleep problems. Pediatrician Dr. Harvey Karp has written several best-selling books. He suggests turning off all electronics at least 30 minutes before bedtime.
Light actually goes through your eyes, and it turns off melatonin, which is your brain's normal sleep hormone. So looking at DVDs and televisions right before bedtime actually disturbs a child's sleep and makes it harder for them to fall asleep.
So according to our children's doctors, parents need to take back control of high-tech entertainment. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Pat, some of those guidelines, especially like those where you turn off your technology 30 minutes before bedtime, I think apply to adults as well.
It sure does. There's no question about it. You know, I grew up in a time we didn't have television.
Isn't it amazing? And now you've been in TV for over 50 years.
Yeah, I had to, I read books. I read voraciously. When I read. That was my big treat on the weekends, to have a whole bunch of books and read them. As soon as I got home, I started reading. But the lights went out. And, we didn't sit up half the night reading or watching anything, and we played outside.
Doesn't that sound wonderful?
Yeah, it is.
I don't keep a TV or any electronics in my bedroom. I try to make that just a place for sleeping, and it does help.
It should be.
Do you have a TV in your bedroom?
Well,
I know you do.
I've got.
I don't know, but
they're everywhere. Yeah, they're everywhere. So anyhow, but I want to turn it off. I have a wife who likes to watch some stuff, and I just say, look, I'm sorry.
Like to sleep to the TV.
Yeah, and you can't do that.
I can't do that.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
A key member of the Muslim Brotherhood has been arrested in Egypt. Assam El Arian is the deputy leader of the Brotherhood's political arm. Many radical Muslim leaders have been detained and charged with inciting violence since the army overthrew President Mohamed Morsi in July. El Arian had urged followers to denounce the takeover and demand Morsi's reinstatement. The two are expected to stand trial next week, along with other Islamist officials. The stone monument to the Ten Commandments that was toppled last month across from the U.S. Supreme Court has been restored and rededicated. Religious and political leaders came together for the ceremony. The monument is set in front of the Christian outreach ministry Faith into Action and is angled so that justices arriving at the High Court can see it. Congressman Joe Wilson of South Carolina said last month's toppling of the Ten Commandments was gruesomely symbolic evidence that we are in a culture war. No arrests have been made. Well, you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.